going to say it's Drunk Geekified. We're back and we're fucking talking about a lot of fucking shit.
Drunk a geek. Geeky drunk. Geeky drunk. Geeky drunk.
Drunkified.
Drunkified.
Still like shit. I don't care. Right, cool.
Slange you that.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Geekified. Checking the time, it is currently 20 to 1 in the morning. Me and this guy have seen Tenet today. As you've seen with our amazing intro, we are over the moon. We've really enjoyed it. Everything's been fantastic, but we want to talk about it. We want to break stuff down. But unfortunately, this is officially classed as a drunk, geekified episode because apparently we've had a couple for the past 6 hours. Don't know about you, Nathan. I feel quite sober.
I've only had 12, am I right?
I've only had about the same, so totally good. But we just thought, well...
But we have just talked about this film for the whole time, so it's okay.
Yeah, so absolutely no joke. So anyone who's watching this, we have sat and talked about this. We went to the cinema at 1 o'clock.
Yep. Out by about 3, quarter to 4, I think we got out.
Yeah, 3, quarter to 4 we got out. We sat and talked about it for 2 hours, went for something to eat, had some food, and we have been talking about the film ever since. So we sat and we thought, like, we planned an episode of doing this the next couple of days when maybe another member of Geekified Team had watched it, and we thought, no, because we've talked about it for 4 hours. We are that blown away by everything that happened that we need to discuss it now with you guys. So,
just in case you don't agree with us, we don't want to get included.
Wow, just wow. So, it was only released today. You're probably going to get this review if I stay sober enough by the time I edit this and get it out. You should be watching this at least by Thursday morning. So hopefully some haven't seen it, some want to see it. This is going to be spoiler heavy. So if you're watching this right now and you've not seen it, stop.
Tough poops, basically.
Yeah, just stop. Don't watch it. Just turn us off. Just don't watch anymore from now on. Because we are going to be talking about a whole lot of shit that went down in this film. But there's obviously no words.
And just to warn them as well, it may be a 4-hour episode.
Yeah. This is going to go on for quite some time because we have so much to discuss. So we've got a lot to discuss when we're going to be talking about this. One of the major parts that we're going to be talking about this is the film in general. So we're going to discuss the film in general. We're going to talk about exactly what we loved about the film, the Christopher Nolan style, everything that he's done in the past compared to what he's done now for film. But one of the biggest factors that we've got a lot of luck with is this chap right here, who happens to be very, very intelligent. I believe in one of the warnings of the first episodes that we spoke to you about was, if you're ever in a quiz with him, just leave the room. You're not going to win. Go find another quiz where you'll win. He's super intelligent. He has a brain box, but he also happens to know a lot about theories of physics and math, and he knows about this shit. So if you have
and maths, so
if you have remotely any idea about maths and physics, he's your man. He knows a lot. So we happen to have quite a lot of discussion about this. So this is one of the things that we're going to dig a little bit deeper in tonight, and hopefully once Tony, Sean or Mark get to watch it, we're going to do another episode, because God knows I am telling you this film deserves more than one episode. It's deep and it's dark.
A whole series by itself, pretty much.
Oh my God. So we're going to delve in quite a lot into this. Give me 1 sec. My cat's doing my head in. 2 seconds. There you go.
This is the only time pussy has ever annoyed Chris.
Yeah, I'm just chasing pussy like fucking wouldn't believe. I'm definitely going to have to edit that out. See if I forget to edit this out. Holy shit.
Holy shit balls!
Holy shit balls! Holy shit balls! Holy shit balls! I'm keeping that in. So we're back anyway. Editing little bits out of me being an absolute bleep, 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 bleep. And I'm just going to remind people that if you've not tuned into the fact that it's in the headline, or the fact that I've stated it at the start, me and Nathan have had a few beers. So, yeah, Nathan's on the wine now. We've had a few beers, been a couple of bars in Glasgow. I've just discussed TENET the entire day. So if you have watched it or you've not watched it and you just want to listen to us talk a whole load of garbage, then we're here for you. So, let's start off just with the film in general. Let's just go for like the most general concept of what you felt about the film, Nathan. You're up.
It's already in my top 10 films all time. Like, not even close. It's. I said to you when we came out of the film today, it's the first time I felt that excited about a film since Inception, which was, 8 years ago now?
Yeah.
It just blew me it gets you from the start. It's like bang, straight in there. Then it calms down a bit and it develops the characters really well. And it's everything you want from a cinema. I don't know. It's just because it's been so. I loved going to cinema for anything. It's one of my favourite things in the world. I don't know because I haven't been for so long. Last thing I went to see was 1917, which was in February.
Yeah.
Which was also amazing cinema. But I don't think it was just that. I think that during the time of lockdown, it's sort of, we've talked about this since April when it was supposed to be first come out, or June when it was supposed to come out. It's just heightened the sense of excitement the whole time, and it did not disappoint on any level from the start.
No, I fully agree with you. Like I said, we've obviously, me and Nathan were with each other earlier on. We're doing this over a Zoom call just now because we don't have the facilities to film it yet, which will be coming shortly. But we've both said this is, I mean, I said to you earlier on that I feel that Christopher Nolan is some sort of intergalactic alien species who's came to tell us stories from the far future of our time.
Oh man,
the best way to describe it, because the guy's telling stories about film which are so far in the future of what filmmaking and film TV should be that nobody else can keep up with him. The guys, it's phenomenal. It's just ridiculous.
Even the science behind the films, what he talks about in this film as well, and in other films he's done, it all makes sense. You know, it's not like he's just, we'll do this and it doesn't work. I don't really care anymore, because he explains the science behind all the stuff. Yeah. And the whole idea in this film of entropy, and entropy can go backwards. That makes sense if you know anything about that sort of side of physics and mathematics. It makes sense what he talks about. You know, entropy is a measure of disorder.
Yeah.
And it goes from the start of time to the end of time. And then if you go to a very small portion of that, it makes sense that you can turn it around.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah, okay.
We're nowhere near that section yet.
I'm getting too geeky already.
See how excited we are. Obviously, as a film in general, we've obviously tried to summarise what we felt about the film. We both absolutely loved it. It was phenomenal. An exceptional film. Yet again, I feel bad on the fact that Christopher Nolan can give us films which are extraordinary and which are so out of context to what we're normally watching. I feel terrible on the basis of calling it a masterpiece, because it's not a masterpiece. It's a word that I cannot describe, which I do not have yet, because it's from the future about how good a film actually is. It doesn't make sense how I don't have.
He's inverted you, Chris. He's inverted you.
He's inverted. If you watched it, you know what I mean. But
no, I mean it's difficult to classify the film, because there's sci-fi elements. There's also spy elements. There's also thriller elements, but of sci-fi films, I watched a lot of sci-fi films, and
I'm a sci-fi geek. I'm a Star
Wars.
Up
there with top level of that. You know, it's up there with things like Blade Runner, Original Alien, Star Wars. If you're into that sort of stuff, Star Trek. If you're into that stuff, it's up there with that level of being that good in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's, if not surpassing that. I mean, we came out today, and we came out, like I said, about 4 o'clock today, and it's now close to 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's 9 hours later, and it's still fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Which for me is always a sign of a very good film.
Yeah.
So, and I know for a fact for the next 2 weeks I'm still going to be thinking about it, and I'm going to go and see it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, put it in perspective, and we and Nathan have already discussed when we're going to see it again, and we're talking as close as Sunday. That's how good this film is. We want to see it again on Sunday, and it's now currently, we've only just seen it on Tuesday. Sorry, Wednesday.
Go IMAX, so it's the big.
Yeah, we now want to see it on a
Nolan said that's how you should see it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I'm trying not to be lean towards on the basis that I'm a massive Christopher Nolan fan, because I think all his work's been tremendous, but it's difficult not to.
Yeah.
And then, so the next topic that I did want to discuss was the reviews that we both read before we went in to see the film. So both of us both read very mixed bag, lots of different reviews. A couple were from, I think I've seen Variety, I think I've seen The Guardian, I think I've seen a couple others.
Yep.
I
read about 6 or 7 different.
Yeah, I was roughly about the same, and I stopped at one point because I thought, well, do you know what? I'm really looking forward. It's the first cinema we're going to see for a long time, and Nolan is going to save cinema. That was a lot of the thing that were. It was a kind of the tagline. Really, Chris? Really?
Could be.
I blame the beer. So the tagline that Nolan had for this film was like the consistent basis was he's going to save cinema. This is a film to make sure cinema survives. Hopefully, I'm really, really hoping, and I'm not saying on the basis of this interview, if anyone that watches this, because I know we're not going to have a great deal of viewers at this point in time, but if you watch it, just go see it. It's tremendous. It's absolutely fantastic. But I'm a massive Christopher Nolan fan, so I'm on the basis of the stuff that I say, it is on what I've seen before, which I've really enjoyed. So I know a lot of people might be watching this thinking they've not enjoyed it. They've not enjoyed maybe Inception. It's been a bit too dark, a bit too deep. Interstellar was too sci-fi. You're going to get more of the same. So that's the best thing I can say.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think this film feels more like a Bond-esque type film.
Yeah.
Sci-fi elements, obviously, but they're much more. I talked to you earlier about the fact that it's much more of a sort of functional sci-fi. Yeah. That makes sense. It's not, everything's machine-based, so that they go through things to machine to achieve things, which feels much more functional than a lot of sci-fi films do. You could watch this film and not know it's. Well, you couldn't not know it's sci-fi, but you could watch this film and enjoy it and not be a sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
I think if you're a sci-fi fan, you will enjoy it. Yeah. But I think it's if you're a Bond fan or a Bourne fan or anything like that, you'll enjoy this film because it's got that. It feels more like that than a sci-fi film to me.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I do understand where you're coming from. You've got a lot of.
I mean, a lot of it blows your mind. The idea behind it, because we were sat there going, "What?"
Yeah, I mean, it was a couple of times when both me and Nathan sat here, and Nathan was on my left, and I was kind of sitting, and then I would just hear, and then I was like, "What?" Looking around, and he was just shocked at what he'd seen, because it happens so many times throughout the film. There's so many points in the film where you're watching, going, "How did he's just done that?" It's like it's just happened or something. It's so surprising how we did it, or you're blown away by the skills of what you're watching as a filmmaker or just as a viewer to see something happen. That it's just shocking. Like, we laughed at each other a couple of times and thought, "Wow, I can't believe that's what we're watching just now."
After that, it wasn't even a conversation at any point. It was just a sort of, "Oh my God, what just that just happened? Did it? And how did that happen?" It's more of a not so much in fact it happened. It's like, how did that happen and what did that mean and how did it fit in with everything else? And then an hour later, it would loop round and you go, "Oh, that's why it happened."
Yeah.
And that was the coolest thing for me, is the fact that stuff that happened really early on, you're like, I don't understand why that happened, but I think it's important. And then later on, you sort of think, that's why it happened.
Yeah.
And you know now why that happened, because the timeline idea and So I say to anybody, if you like the idea of multiple timelines in Marvel and DCU and stuff like that, this stuff blows it out of the water.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I think what he's done with the whole idea of he's created and you brought this up earlier on, which was quite interesting, is the fact that Nolan does not reference this movie in the slightest as being a time travel film. It's not mentioned, it's not talked about, it's not discussed. And to an
Noir.
extent,
I think he calls it a noir spy thriller, doesn't he?
yeah, to an extent, it's not a time travel film. Like I would say that, but it is. There's a lot of elements of kind of jumping about in time, but not in the traditional way that you would see a normal film like Back to the Future or anything like that, where you see jumps in time. They're messing about with timelines, which is kind of very different.
And even like very specific time, so the timeline still goes, and they affect a very small part of that, which is like, which is the entropy idea. We were talking about this earlier in the pub, and blew both of our mind. This idea that you can focus down that small part of the entropy timeline, and so everything else moves around it, and they affect that slight little narrow corridor, which I thought was just. I mean, it's the more you think about it, the more it sort of opens up in your mind. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so the next stage, obviously, I'm going to try and discuss a little bit about the science before we kind of close the chat later on. In about 4 hours when we're finished talking about this film. So, genuinely, if you've seen this film, you know exactly what we're talking about. You know how deep this rabbit hole is.
That's what Christopher Nolan's so good at, though. Even you go back to things like Memento, what's the one with Al Pacino and Robin Williams called again?
Insomnia.
He does this thing where you watch a film and then you think you've seen the film, and then an hour, 2 hours, 3 days, 4 days, you spot something and you think, wait a minute, that happened. I didn't realise it happened. And that's what you took. Inception is definitely one of that. Interstellar definitely does that.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight trilogy was different, but there's a bit of that in that as well. Whereas he makes you, think outside. It's like, it brings back that idea of, event cinema. As it were, back it started in the 70s with things like Jaws and things like that, where, go here to see this. But you go to see a Christopher Nolan film, and when you coming out of it, if you're the way inclined that we are, that's a 2-hour film, but it'll consume your life for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. And that's what, like, I've watched a lot of really, really bad films. I've watched a lot of really, really terrible films that are sold to be big blockbusters. But this, Nolan seems to give you a blockbuster that leaves a mark on you for a couple of weeks. You walk out of a cinema and you feel like you want to discuss it with people. You want to talk about it with people. And for me, that's like the old Steven Spielberg way, which...
Oh, no, that's it.
Yeah, I'm not saying Steven Spielberg's really lost his touch or anything. I'm just saying he's not as current in kind of pop culture right now. He's still just as great a director and he's fantastic, but currently, you're talking Nolan is still one of the Mac Daddies of filmmaking.
He's in the sci-fi genre. But even if you go back to things like Dunkirk, which was a superb film, but even in that he messes about with timelines. He loves this idea of timelines and time's not relevant, and time's only relevant to people in that linear passage.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool idea in cinema, especially because you can explore that in cinema so much. Yeah. I watched Dunkirk and I loved the film. But I was about an hour and a half into it before I realised that they were all in different timelines.
Yeah.
Just the way he did it.
Yeah, very, very clever filmmaking.
Cool. And that's a historic event, and he's just filmed it in a way that felt like not a sci-fi film's the wrong word for it, but it felt like a non-linear story.
Mm-hmm.
When it came together at the end, and it was a linear story, but he's so good at doing that. Where things like Inception or this or Interstellar, the narrative sort of blends with that and it becomes that.
Yeah.
But even in things like Dunkirk, which it wasn't that, it was a very linear storyline. He managed to make it non-linear, which is so clever.
Yeah.
And he got Kenneth Branagh in both of them, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, just as you say that, one of the next things I want to talk about is the cast. One of the big things, so we obviously know, anyone who's watched Nolan films knows he does stick to a lot of the same people in a lot of his cast when he can, and obviously without exception, he stayed with the absolute fantastic and great Sir Michael Caine. Who turns up again for a very, very short scene, and I believe, off the top of my head, I think Michael Caine is late 80s now. So
he is,
he's definitely late 80s now, and legend of cinema. I mean, absolute legend of cinema. But I believe if you have watched this, if you haven't watched it, then please just be careful what I'm about to say.
Don't give a shit if they've watched it or not. Beat me out there, but I don't really care. I mean, that scene. I mean, we were at the only time I spoke to you in the whole cinema. I said, "He called him Sir Michael. He called him Sir Michael."
He does, he references, but one thing I did bring up with Nathan as well, which I'll bring up with you guys, Geekified guys, is that he did say to him, just as John David Washington has a meeting with him, and he says at the end of the meeting, "Goodbye, Sir Michael." And that's his last words before he leaves the table. So I'm curious as to whether or not this is the firm goodbye for Mr. Kane leaving cinema.
It's about 2 minute scene, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very short, very, very quick. We know that
He's very good in it, like he always is and everything. But even, I mean, Nolan, like you said to me before, and Nolan has said that Kane is his muse. I'm sure that even though Michael Caine's only in it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, he's probably on set for much longer.
Probably, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, because I know that Nolan listens to him a lot. Even in Inception, he's not in it. He's in it for a little bit. Remember when they're in when he's doing a lecture, and then at the end when the kids. And even in the Dark Knight trilogy, Louis Albert, he's not in it that often. Yeah,
very, very, not much. So I'm hoping, given that last line that he says, "Goodbye, Sir Michael." Oh,
that's it. Should be.
I hope it's not the end of Mr. Kane's beautiful fucking era. Excuse me, I'm swearing again. Beautiful era of cinema, because the guy's a legend, and he looks great. He looks fantastic. He doesn't look like he's aged a day in a long time. So we hope that's not the end. Please don't let it be the end, Mr. Kane. If you ever have the grace of watching this humble channel, we love you. But I'm thinking that might be his final nod. I'm assuming, given or the last.
I hope so. I think it's a for somebody as great as he has been, and some of the great films he's done. I mean, things like Zulu is one of my favourite films of all time.
Yeah.
And a few other ones he's done. He's just an amazing actor.
Yeah.
Even more recent stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen Venus. It's really good, and a few other ones he's done. And
Harry Brown,
amazing again. But
you're going to say that anyone who's watching this, that you are talking to kind of age-old cinema viewers here. We're not a young team at Geekified. We've got a few years of experience here, so we know a lot of old school stuff. So we might reference.
I only own about 900 DVDs, so not like I'm
nothing.
All the streaming networks you can possibly have. Anyway, what I was saying was, I think that the fact that Michael Caine obviously respects Christopher Nolan and appreciates what he does, and I think that I think he would probably be the type of guy who would probably go out that way, not tell anybody and do it a bit of a nod.
Yeah,
it's a very like definite scene the way they do it.
Yeah,
it's almost out of character with the film as well. The way they do it, it's very one-on-one shot. It's it's like that sort of shot, and it's like, thank you so much.
For me, it felt like a goodbye.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, so I was genuinely sad watching it, because I was watching it the whole time going, "Oh, it's Michael Caine, yay, he's back in it, woo!" And he got to the end, he was like, "Goodbye, Sir Michael," and he walked away. And I can't remember the scene after it, because I was going, "Oh, please don't that's not it, is it? Is that him gone?"
I think
that's when meant to blow the bloody doors off.
Then Batman came in, didn't he? It's a different chat.
That's the next episode, guys. That's the next episode. So if you're watching, we're going to have a massive, probably, we're on 25 minutes just now. We're probably going to have quite some debate about
24-hour chat about Batman.
So it's going to be a long chat among some geeks about Batman. So please join in for that. We'd love you to watch. It's going to be very, very excruciating how bad other people's chat's going to be. I'm not saying who, but anyway, back to the cast. Back to the cast.
Okay.
Hold on. Sorry, I've got an alarm going off.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That says that's the inversion. So somebody else is.
It's an inversion. Yeah.
Is that different, Chris? He's walking forwards.
It's like
Makes perfect sense if you've seen it.
If you've seen it, yeah, you know what we're talking about. I don't know how many times I need to say that, but I'll also remind people that this is a drunk review. We're pretty fucking pissed. So I'm not going to, you know what? Fuckity fuck. I'm not going to edit it out. This is a drunk review.
I was going to say cunt, but
No, I'm going to have to beat that, Nathan. Anyone who can guess what that is in the comments gets a prize. Wasn't nice. Anyway, back to the cast. We're very shallow in the amount we went on. Talked about Michael Caine.
I mean, John David Washington.
Yeah, that's where I'm going next.
Out of this world. Like, he's no longer the coolest guy. I mean, Denzel's no longer the coolest guy in that family, is he?
No.
Well, I mean, Denzel's pretty cool. All needed in this film, all he needed was one slow motion walking away from an explosion scene, and he would have been. He did the walk, he did the voice, he did everything. It was just and he's awesome anyway. I mean, I've seen him in. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Ballers, which he's great in. I love Black Klansman, which he's awesome in. But he plays the character and all, this sort of cool guy, very calm and stuff. But even in this one, he was just awesome. I thought like. The screen almost shrunk to him, which is always a good sign, I think, in a scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The camera zoomed consistently in him. I mean, you're talking about, like, if I was going to do it on camera, you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Always about here. Always shot was always about here. Not with a cat. That's my cat. No, that'd be really weird, but always about here. So you'd always had good focus on him. You always had him really in the scene and really, really prominent in the scene.
And it was all chest up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Almost the whole film.
Just him here, up for him. Tremendous.
Even the action scenes were like that, weren't they? Pretty much. Yeah.
Very, very close. Very, very intimidating. Very, very. Again, that's down to the director and cinematographer and action and all that. That's obviously what they wanted as part of the image. But
plus, we were talking about the fact that he's got no name in it. Everyone else has got a name, and he's just the protagonist. Was that coming up? Is that coming up? Sorry.
That was going to come up. Nathan.
I jumped the gun.
Jeez, Nathan. Topic at a time. Jeez.
I can't help it. I loved it so much.
It's going to be the hardest part about this. I knew it'd have to. When eventually, like, lockdown is done, where it's officially over, when we do get to the point where we can all sit in the room, at least I can whip people into being the host and tell them when to shut up. But I can't do that just now because we can only do reviews over Zoom, which is sad. But when I get to the point where I can whip people, I'll be a little bit more controlled if you're viewing this now.
Me talking peace most of the time.
So, you've got John David Washington, who plays who, Nathan?
The protagonist?
The protagonist, yes, he does. No name given, as far as we were aware today. Not a sausage dropped.
But we talked about that earlier. It's such a cool idea, you know, that because every especially action films have a protagonist who drives the action, and that's what he does through the whole. And obviously, at the end of the film, it explains why he's done that. Not to give too much of a spoiler away.
Yeah, we won't say. One thing specifically was we will definitely not, and by no means give away the ending of the film. There's a lot to be given away by the end of the film, and what happens at the end. If you're worried about,
but is it the end?
I know, but if you're worried about us spoiling it, it's going to be. Put it this way: it's going to be very, very difficult for us to spoil this entire film. It's very, very hard.
Because we don't
probably have to give you a 3-hour lecture just to spoil the film.
We don't understand it yet. That's why.
I know we don't get it. We're still confused. Well, we do get it. We understand what's happened, but we'd probably genuinely have to. Do you know what? Going to see Tenet is like sitting down for a physics master's exam when you haven't studied or you don't know anything about physics.
Yeah.
And sitting in a room told, right, you need to pass this. That's what watching this film is from, but in a really good way. It's probably the best way that my brain could express it.
There's even a line in the film where Robert Pattinson's Neil is describing something, and John David Washington goes, "Well, that was easy, wasn't it?"
Yeah.
He basically describes what happened. It's exactly what it is for us as viewers.
Yeah.
But that's a Christopher Nolan film, isn't it? He does it in Interstellar. He does it in Inception.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, what happened there? Sorry, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So John David Washington, we've got playing the protagonist, who's absolutely fantastic, absolutely eats the screen time, and holy mother of Jesus, he absolutely owns the film. He really does. Yeah, he tears it away from Michael Caine, he tears it away from Kenneth Branagh, tears it away from Elizabeth Debicki, everybody. It's his film. It really is. This is his film. So well done, Mr. Nolan, on doing it. But I would also like to say thank you, and I will put up on my Geekified Twitter channel, thank you, Denzel Washington, and I don't know who your wife is. Lucky lady, thank you for having children, because you have graced us with another Denzel Washington. Holy man, thank you. I'm so happy that this guy has decided to grace us with his God's gift from his father and making film. The guy's a legend. The guy's absolutely smashing it. There was so many scenes in this film where I felt like it's just Denzel Washington. I said that, but then I was like,
not in a bad way though.
it's not a bad thing. I was like, Denzel Washington, I'm loving this. I'm watching like we've got another extra 20, 30 years of having a Denzel Washington in their lives. Denzel Washington has officially preserved his genes and made another version of him for cinema. So thank you, sir.
But maybe it is him.
No, let's not go down the rabbit hole yet, Nathan.
I'm already in it. I'm in it.
This is the spoiler. This is the end of our chat when we start to get into the really sciencey stuff. That's a possible spoiler. Gonna have to flag that up. Right, so we'll talk about Denzel Washington.
Next casting choice, sorry.
No, oh Jesus. No,
Kenneth Branagh.
We're going to go to Branagh, right? So the villain of the film is Kenneth Branagh. So I did mention this to Nathan when I watched this. I felt like Kenneth Branagh was a rehash of the villain. Oh no, it did seem a little bit like this. So if you have seen Jack Ryan with Chris Pine, it did feel like a bit of a rehash of the same villain. But
levels up.
It was that villain who just wasn't amazing in Jack Ryan with a shot of adrenaline in the arm.
Did you not think though there was a certain vulnerability about him? And this wasn't in Jack Ryan?
Yeah, that's the biggest part that I felt that why he was a different character. He's very much the same character. He almost wore the same clothes in the film, which is why I was kind of thinking, you're just doing the same character. Dude, this is exactly the same. But he wasn't. He was vulnerable, he was very human, and he was scary. He made him very, 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 very villainous and scary, which I thought was fantastic.
Right. The biggest thing for me was he knew how it all worked, the technology and stuff like that, and he knew what he knew the end game he was going for, and he was so close to getting it. You know, a lot of these films, especially the Bond films, they sort of almost accidentally get to the end. Whereas he knew exactly what it was, and then even though it was. It's the film though. Even though it was in the past, he still knew where he was going to get to, even though it was in the past, because he could do it. And that makes sense. It makes sense to you because you've seen it, and anyone's seen it, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But he just and the scene at the end, that line, maybe I'm a god. It was just perfect for his character.
Yeah, it worked.
And I think he played it perfectly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the character that he played in Jack Ryan was bad, because it wasn't. It was a great character, and I thought he was very, very good at being a villain. He's got this to a T, but it was just the fact it was the same guy. I don't know if it was just because it was the same accent. Sorry, I'm going to burp because I've had beer.
Probably. I'd
be suave and edit it out, but this is a drunk review, so tough luck. I know. So
I think this is drunk, but also very sentient.
Yeah. Sentient drunk reviews, that's what we're going for.
I managed to get the word sentient in after so many drinks. I think it's pretty
good. I know, you were just want to put that. He's probably got word of the day toilet paper or something, people, don't worry. But
you've always said I'm very clever, so that's what it is.
So I've rubbed his ego and therefore he shits big words. That's what's happening now. Anyway, enough about us. So Branagh, fantastic. So we're going to move on to the next person. We're talking about Elizabeth Debicki, could be whatever way, I'm not sure because I'm drunk, but fantastic. The last time I seen,
I think a genius bit of casting, because
the last time,
like I said to you, you said to me earlier, the film she was in, obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I couldn't think where she was from, and I haven't seen her in anything else.
Yeah,
but I think she was perfect for that role, perfect for that role. It highlights the genius of Nolan. I think.
So I don't actually know. I can't tell you off the top of my head what else she's been in because I don't know, and that's a shame because how good she was and how good she is in this film.
I think the fact that both of us are both film geeks, not just comic geeks and stuff like that, can't name a film that she's in not one film. Suggests that she's not been in anything major or anything even mildly major.
So we stand corrected if there's anything that we've majorly missed that she's been in, but That's absolutely not taking away anything from how her acting performance, which was unbelievable. I mean, she's not a huge part in the film per se, but she's a huge part in the film, which is, it sounds really stupid, but again,
Makes sense.
if you watch the film, you know exactly what we're talking about. There's so many pieces in this film that make the film. It's unbelievable. It's hard to make one character be the main character because everybody's so important, which is mind-blowing, like absolutely mind-blowing when you watch it. She was fantastic. Last time we seen her was Guardians of the Galaxy, where she played Aisha, who was the villain that we're up against, who basically makes not Black Adam. Adam?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Adam. No, but you think it's Adam, but you don't know.
Yeah. So she's in it. She was very prominent.
The army in the drone fight thing.
Yeah. So she basically makes a massive part of the Guardians of the Galaxy film. She's huge in it, and she's outstanding in this. And I genuinely cannot wait to find out what she's going to do next, because she's so good. She's genuinely eats up the screen. Although
when the film first started, I thought it's going to be a little bit cliched, the fight for your son thing, but it comes across completely differently.
Yeah.
Because of the way that, because obviously the protagonist drives the story. No, I mean it's so interesting the way they do it. It's almost like when he drives the narrative. It's almost like he rewrites the narrative as it goes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, I've not really thought.
Oh, yeah, I'm very clever. But because he drives it that way, her character changes quite a lot through the film, I think. And then the whole sort of, the tagline from the film is, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
It's
said a lot, yeah.
And it's like, so she tries to kill her husband when he shows him off the yacht. And then spoiler alert, kills him at the end anyway and drags him behind the boat. So that's the same thing. I love that sort of idea that that still happens, even though it's not happened.
So, I mean, to point out how complex this film is, what he just said is a massive spoiler for the film. But it's not though. Let me finish. It's a massive spoiler for the film, but it means nothing in the context of the film, which is what makes it very interesting. I mean, we're giving you a huge spoiler in part of the story, doesn't mean anything for the context of the film, which is why the film is so good and so complex. So it says it's a huge part of the story. She kills her husband in the end. You could walk into this film knowing this, and it doesn't mean anything at all, which is why it's so good. So
are we doing Batman next?
You had your horses, sunshine. You had your horses, sunshine. Just for that, we're not going to talk about Batman. He's not even Batman.
I'm half bottle of wine down. Come on.
Right, you want to talk about Batman? Is that what you want to talk about?
Yes. Is Sean coming on, please? I'll destroy him.
Let's not go there. He's not in. He's not backed himself up yet. So we're going to talk about one of the biggest players currently in this film, and it's nothing to do with the film. It's kind of to do with the pop culture circumstance that he's found himself in. It is Robert Pattinson. So if you've seen anything that I've watched over the past couple of months of us doing this channel, you will know I am quite a big fan of Robert Pattinson. I wasn't a fan of Twilight. I watched the first Twilight. I never watched any more. I thought it was terrible. It's not my cup of tea. It's a YA novel. It's a YA film. I was way older than that. But the work he did after that, and I'll go back to one of the most prominent ones that I've discussed with your other host here tonight, which is Cosmopolis, which is one of the most extraordinary films that I've watched in recent times. It's very, very different, very entertaining, and very, very difficult to do as a filmmaker. And that guy, Mr. Pattinson, absolutely owned it. He is a tremendous actor. So,
I mean, for that film, he basically did that it's like a one piece.
It's almost a one shot, really, the whole entire film.
It's just him.
Sure, yeah.
It's about an hour and 40 minutes, that film.
Yeah, it's not hugely long.
The whole time.
Yeah. So that guy is in this film. He's also been cast as Batman. And in the next couple of nights, we're going to have a massive discussion about his casting. We're going to talk to myself, Nathan, Mark, Sean, and Tony. You're going to get hopefully, fingers crossed, the first 5-parter we've ever done. You'll get 5 guys just arguing about whether or not he's going to be a good Batman. But anyway, that's not the point.
knock people out halfway through. He gets fed up.
You might see some people drop out of the chat as I'm talking about it who just don't agree with me because I think he'll make a good, great Batman. So enough said. But anyway, we're talking about Robert Pattinson in this film. So Robert Pattinson, if you've catched up with any of the stories that you've seen about him during this film, he actually left the set to go and audition for Batman when Mr. Nolan gave him into trouble in this. If you've not read that story, just Google it, you'll find it. It's very, very funny, very, very interesting. But he was in this film, obviously, pre-Batman. So the performance in this, forgetting that he was even remotely in Batman, is extraordinary. This guy, again, this is coming from someone who's seen The King, who's seen The Lighthouse, who's seen I'm again drunk forgetting The End of the World, One on the Road. I forgot the name of the film, but that one, can't remember. But I've seen a lot since he's done it, and he's an extraordinary actor, very talented. He owns the screen, very, very dominant on screen, and very good. Just love him, genuinely love him, everything he does. And this is just the same for me. Absolutely.
I love the way in this he's very understated.
Yeah.
And he's basically the hero of the day at the end of this film.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a major spoiler actually. But yeah. I don't know spoiler because I spotted it the first time round. I mean,
even saying that, it doesn't spoil it.
I don't think you spotted it, did you, the first time round?
No.
I did. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, but he's just so good. Like he's just so very understated. He's actually, I would imagine if you counted up the lines, he had very few lines.
Not a lot, yeah.
Everything's very poignant, and I said to you as soon as we came out, if anyone doesn't think he's going to be a good Bruce Wayne, watch that film.
Yeah, he's great. He's just he's got a presence. He's very tall, very dark, and very handsome. He's just a very good-looking character, and he just looks posh. Is the best way to say it. He just looks like a very classy, posh guy. The way he's done up in this, and it works really well. He very much reminded me of Tom Hardy's part in Inception.
I was almost going to say that to you. Honestly, it's such a close tie between them.
Yeah.
Very similar idea. In fact, in this, he's probably a bit more worldly and a bit better at a lot of stuff, because Hardy had a one thing he could do in that.
Yeah, well, that was part of his film thing in Inception. He was very, very down to what he could do in Inception. In this film, Pattinson is very. There's a lot that he can do, and if you've seen the film, you know what we're talking about. There's a lot of that he knows that a lot of other characters don't know, and a lot that he's doing that he's not 100% sure of, and he's lived a lot in this film.
I love the twist at the end where he seems like a bit jaded by it all.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he's actually the new one. I love that. I love that idea.
That's the amazing part, and that's obviously what Nathan said. Super spoiler. Yeah. He's seen this all. This isn't his first rodeo. It's the best way to say this. He knows everything that's happened. He's been there, done it, bought the T-shirt, and he's on the way out.
Everyone else has seen more of it than he has, which is such a cool. Like at the last minute, it comes in like that, and you go, "What the hell?"
I don't know if he fall in love with the actor or the character, which I think is a great idea because you
separate them. Yeah. I think every piece of casting in this, they do that though.
Yeah, because I don't know, it's like John David Washington. Like I never really seen him in very much before until you had said what he'd done, and I loved him. I thought he was great in this, but it's very hard for me to separate the character and the actor.
I will say he's a very similar sort of character in the things I've seen him. I've seen him in Ballers, I've seen him in Black Klansman, and he's very good in both of them. But he's a very similar character. But sometimes you see like a character actor, and you can only see them in one thing.
Yeah.
Think Mark Hamill in Star Wars. He's Luke Skywalker in everything he does.
Yeah.
I didn't see the guy from Ballers in this.
Yeah.
Or the guy from Black Klansman in this. Even though he played a very similar sort of like cocky, self-assured character. Sorry, that was a wine burp there. But he's still playing that character. But I think that's the genius of Nolan.
Yeah.
That he knows what the guys can do, and even he watched things like Interstellar. I mean, Matthew McConaughey plays Matthew McConaughey in that film.
Yeah.
But you're still invested in it, and you get drawn into that. Even Matt Damon's character is not Matt Damon. It's still Matt Damon in that film. But
Damon.
Matt Damon. But he is Matt Damon in that film, but on a different planet.
Yeah.
But you get drawn into it because he drives the character so well.
Yeah.
You don't notice it as that actor.
Yeah.
I know that sounds really weird, and maybe I'm just drunk gibberish, but it makes sense to me right now.
Yeah, well, if you're watching this, it's just drunk gibberish 90% of the time. So thanks for watching. We love you. Please like and subscribe. Tell your mum, your dad, and your dog.
Later, bang. We can do this all day.
Oh, no, that's the end. That's our tag.
Okay. Here we go.
Say our tagline.
Half bottle of wine left. Come on.
Don't say our tagline right halfway through I say halfway through. We're currently sitting about 45 minutes, and we're not even really deep into this project yet. Anyway,
pardon my French again.
Didn't hear it, so it's fine. Can't edit it. So, anyone else in the cast I've missed that was prominent?
Old Taylor Johnson.
Oh, right, yeah. So that's a belter, yeah.
I didn't spot him.
Yeah, I spotted him. It took me a while as well. I did say.
Yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson turns up near the end as being an agent, a time agent.
Near the end, he was in like half the film.
Yeah. So he very surprisingly turns up in the film, which I didn't expect. I forgot he was in it because I knew he was cast in it, and I completely forgot.
No.
He's a very good character, very interesting character, but very interesting in the part of I would say how the world works, which is more probably the best way to put it. How the world of what's happening actually comes together.
He understands it better than anybody else, I thought.
Yeah. And he kind of corrects people, which is the fun part. Is like he kind of gives people into trouble to a certain degree. But what an accent! It was like London geezer accent he puts on flawlessly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what threw me. I think I would have got it, but the accent threw me.
Yeah.
Because I watched one of his films last week. Like I said to you, A Million Little Pieces I watched last week, which is his wife directed and he's in. So you think because I watched it very recently, I realised who it was. But I think I said to you as well, straight away I thought it was Tom Hardy. I thought, no. And then very quickly realised it's not him.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I get what you meant because I thought it was Tom Hardy as well. Actually, when I first seen him, I was like, Tom Hardy? No, that's Aaron Taylor Johnson. But it took me a couple of minutes to realise who it was. But he's very, very good in this as well. Not a great deal of screen time in the sense so he doesn't have a lot of lines. He's got a lot of.
Fact that Christopher Nolan didn't feel the need to develop the character. Yeah, I think a lot of filmmakers nowadays, they get these sort of periphery characters who are quite important to the plot, and they feel the need to embellish on their life story and stuff. Nolan went, no, this guy's he's a soldier.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all we knew about him.
There's no need to kind of develop a lot about him, if you know what I mean. He just needs someone with a lot of presence, and he gets that presence very, very easily.
He's just a very good soldier, and that's all that needed to be said about him. And that's what we saw when we were watching it.
Yeah.
And all the twists and turns, obviously.
And all the bedillion twists and turns that were absolutely fantastic.
Turns and twists, whatever way you want to look at it.
Oh, did you invert that, Nathan?
Man.
No. Let's find someone else to discuss because I want to talk about the mix of people that are in this film. But you'd have to forgive me because I need to check some of the names.
The French one?
Yes. That was a couple of the ones I was wanting to talk about. So it's Clemence Posey. I didn't want to be rude and mispronounce it, but Clemence Posey. Wow, what? I mean, she's in the film for less than 10 minutes, I would say.
Less than that, I'd say, but
but what a prominent part. She just... Oh,
she explains the science.
Yeah, but you cannot forget her, like, at all for the whole film. So I don't know whether that's great writing or it's great acting or just a good script.
It's both. I think it's who runs the film, which I think in some films the producer runs the film, and I think some films the director runs the film, and I think in Christopher Nolan's case, it's his film.
Yeah,
you know, and he's decided that part because a lot of emphasis. I think for me, it's a very subtle thing. You see her, she brings him in to the thing, right, and then she sits on a stage, and there's a audience bit, and she sort of almost puts an act on for him. I think that's very important, and that's a very subtle thing to it. But for me, that's a very sort of like, this is really important, and because it's on a stage, it's a theatre, so you got to listen to what I'm saying now.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very well put.
Did you notice that or not when we were watching it? I noticed it straight away.
It's very, very
much. You know, in Inception, when Cobb comes into the theatre with what's his name? Michael Caine's character in it
Uh-huh.
at the start, and he
Yeah.
walks down the side of it. It's like it felt like that scene again, and you can tell this guy is really important. He's not there very long, but what he says is very important.
I think it's a very, very good way to put it, because it is a very important character. She's super important on the basis she explains everything from the word go when you don't know what's going on, which is really, really good, because you keep, and your brain as a person who's watching the film references everything that she's told you. So it's very, very important in that sense. So, but you couldn't have cast it better. Yeah. That's not some secret. If you've seen this, you know what I mean. It's not some like thing from Friends like that or anything like that. And then I would probably say, like, given how good she was, I think the only other character with probably the most relevant screen time was Dimple Kapadia, who played the Kapadia. I'm not sure. Please forgive me. I've not heard her name pronounced officially, so please forgive me if I got that wrong. Dimple Kapadia. She plays the arms dealer. Very, very short amount of screen time, but very, very important amount of screen time.
I love the bit when it is explained why her husband. She's like, well, you know, we're in a man's world, so he's the front. I'm the. I thought, especially the way the world is now at the moment, you know, with what's going on now. I think it's just such a cool thing they did it, especially because they're in India.
Yeah.
And the man. I mean, she's like, well, you know, he's got to be the front, but
it makes sense, and it's very interesting the way they put it. It's sadly the way obviously the world works,
and the way that they attack that compound is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, so you've seen it in the trailer, and it's a massive, massive part of the story. It's like it's an inversion of bungee jumping. So
but it's like it's not actual inversion. It's just they're doing it backwards.
Yeah, it's genius, so cool. Absolute genius. Absolutely, I mean, like
so cool.
So Dimple Kapadia, obviously her part, not a huge role, but massively important in the film. Massively important by the time you get to the end. I won't spoil anything, but nobody can smell anything.
I can.
So Dimple Kapadia, fantastic role. Like, I've not really seen her in a lot. I know she's got a lot of Bollywood movies. And she's probably quite old. I think she's 70 now. She's been in a decent amount of stuff in Hollywood. Please bring her. Like, if you've got any parts going, like, for an absolutely amazing actress of Indian descent, or what, like, for any reason, like, it doesn't have to be Indian. Like, just give her a role.
My favorite thing about that character was that she understood inversion, and so even the bits when she gets surprised by the characters, she's not surprised because she still understands what's happening.
Yeah,
that's what I liked. The bit when they go back in time to Vietnam and they're walking along the thing, and Donnie Washington's talking, the protagonist is talking to her, even though she doesn't know what's going to happen, she still understands what's happening.
Understand exactly what's happening.
I know it probably sounds a bit backwards, but it makes sense if you watch the film.
Yeah, so that's cast. We've done it. Daft Steed. Next thing we want to talk about, like, for me, I would say, is let's talk about the action scenes. So there was a lot of talk.
You got to spare 3-4 hours for this?
Yeah, I know. We're probably going to jump into a couple of different time zones by the time we're done doing this chat. And I can't. Do you know what? We're actually talking. Normally when I do edits,
when does that start?
Normally when I do these edits, I can edit bits out, but I can't even edit bits out. We're actually talking about relevant stuff to the film. So let's keep going. So we're going to talk about the action sequences. So one of the biggest action sequences that they discussed before the film was that Christopher Nolan wanted to crash a plane into an airport hangar. Totally normal. We see this in films all the time. Mr. Nolan, apparently, from what we've read in news sources, wanted to crash the plane into the hangar, and he wanted to make it as realistic as possible. So he, pitching a budget, as you do in a film, pitched the budget. It turns out it was cheaper to buy a plane and buy a hangar, which is bizarre. So on the film, they bought a plane and they bought a hangar and crashed the plane into a hangar. And don't get me wrong, it is a tremendous scene and it works incredibly well. It's in my head, I didn't know what to expect. I kind of expected huge explosions and stuff, but that's not real. In my head, once
It was perfect, wasn't it?
yeah, it was perfect. It was the exact amount. In my head, I was thinking like huge, massive fire everywhere, explosions, plane blowing up. But that's fake. What Nolan does with this scene is tremendously realistic, tremendously real, and very simple. But
He understates it.
yeah,
which is
understatedly done.
so interesting.
But it makes sense to the film. So if you've watched it now, you'll understand exactly what we're saying. It makes sense to what they had to do in the film, and it makes sense to what happens later on in the film, which is
So
again.
all he was doing was basically they were creating a diversion. So the diversion happens perfectly with what they do.
Yeah.
It's just
you think you watch this? You watch this film from the minute you go in and you sit down and you don't realise that you're watching the end to a certain degree. You know what I mean? This is what you don't get. This is how clever the film is. That's a super spoiler. Let's go balls deep. Let's put our balls in our throat and let's choke on them.
Well,
you know what you know. So
nothing better than seeing somebody with their balls in their throat trying to pull them out, Chris.
Oh, that's brilliant. What a line. I'm not joking. The cinema laughed. Laughed in fear.
The greatest line in the history of cinema, I think.
Yeah, the cinema laughed, but in fear. But I think what he did with that scene is incredible. Very, very well done. And you know when you watch stuff like that when it's real. Oh my God, you've done a bottle. I'm out of one beer. Like, one beer. Nathan's working tomorrow, so this could be fun. So I'm not going to get this up, and by the time I would tell you where he works, and you can go and see him and annoy him, but there's no point. Anyway, the scene's tremendous. The scene's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, like incredible. Like I was expecting huge things, but that was my problem from seeing so many shit movies over my time watching films and stuff and expecting huge budget, massive explosions.
I think the way they did it was so good. Like the way they blew the back and then the gold fell out gradually, I thought was awesome as well. And then the way that it crashed and it caused a minor explosion, I thought
constant tension.
So clever how he did it. Like
Yeah.
you said, it would have been so easy just to have this big ball of flames and stuff like that. But I think he's the genius of this film is it's in the minute detail.
Yeah.
Which is 100% what the idea of the film is, the inversion thing. Everything's in this corridor of time. Everything happens in this small corridor. That's what makes it so cool.
Yeah.
I know it's a massive budget. It was £200 million budget, but you can see what they spent it on. They spent it on really cool stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, like, given the plane sequence is obvious, it's a plane sequence. A plane crashes into an airport hangar. That's it. Massive part of the story, but that's the action sequence. Yep. One of the ones that just absolutely blew my mind was the motorway scene.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which one? The first one or the second one? Because I know they're the same thing.
This is the part of it. So again, this is another super spoiler. If you don't want to be spoiled, just fast forward, leave us alone. Don't watch this episode, please, until you've seen it. The whole entire time you're watching the fucking scene, and then you realise that the cars that you're about to hit were part of an inversion that had already happened and it was already planted.
But so it hadn't already happened.
It hadn't happened. I know what you mean.
It had happened, but it hadn't happened because
that's part of the inversion.
Yeah, but he decided then, and that's I've just blown your mind again.
It's incredible. Like, so you're John David Washington's driving up the road, and there's a car just randomly appears on its roof. It's in the trailer. This is you'll see that. Actually, see it in the trailer. Yes, you see the car sitting and he's pulling his out of the way, and then a car goes by him and starts to invert. It's going by him. You don't realise this is massively anything to do because you're caught up in the action of what that scene actually is. And then next thing you know, by the time you get to the end, you realise that's the next couple of scenes. That's him managing to invert himself and then going back chasing after the story previously.
I love Chris. The first half of the film, there wasn't that much of it, and I was thinking, when's it coming? When's it coming? When's it coming? Because we'd heard about it, and he obviously, as a very intelligent man, Chris Nolan, knew that was coming, and knew that that press would come. So he's made the film purposely, so that the first half hasn't got much in it. Gradually comes in, and it gradually comes in, until you get to the, like I said to you early on, he builds the crescendo better than any man in cinema, in the possibly the history of cinema. How he builds that final, crescendo and what's going to happen. I thought it's just like he puts these little bits come in, and you think, and if you don't watch it, you don't watch everything, every single detail in a scene, you'll miss stuff.
Oh, I mean, it's incredible, genuinely incredible. Like you what you think you're watching, you forget that you're almost watching something you think is just crash cars. You think what you're watching is just part of the story, and then you realize that you don't even question what you see. It's so good. At one point, a car drives by, and then they pass a suitcase over the top of it, and then that's actually John David Washington in that car is getting passed over, which is not for another 20 minutes later. It's honest to God, the brain messiness of this film.
The bit in me that it clicked was the bit when they were doing the briefing.
Yeah.
And he said, they've gone an hour before you, and they've given us this feedback. And that's the bit I thought, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
That's the bit, it suddenly clicked with me.
Yeah, so I mean, we're at a point now, like obviously we've majorly discussed a lot of the kind of action sequences. We talked about two of the biggest ones, the plane and then the motorway scene, the two of the biggest parts. There's a lot of kind of small action scenes, lots of shootouts, a lot of small corridor action sequences in a museum or somewhere they keep stuff, which is like inverted fighting. And I'm going to say that
I know this is with Nolan though, even with the Batman films, he loves close contact fighting.
Check your mic, Nathan. You're a bit crackly.
Am I sorry? Not better?
It's funny, it's just crackling a bit there.
Maybe I'm just because I'm cracking.
I'm totally not editing that out to see how cheesy you actually are. That's amazing.
But you know, like in the third Batman film,
yeah,
there's a lot of close contact fighting.
Yeah.
And no one likes that. Even like back to Memento, way back in the day, he did it as well.
So I mean, going back to what we were discussing earlier on, an hour ago, was like how close the contact points are in the film. In the film, it's like so much is just there for the characters. You're not seeing very much apart from what you can see like now, just when you see us. But it encapsulates.
You're saying that we should be in Christopher Nolan films then?
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. I'll do it. Christopher.
So, looking at how much action sequences we've seen, which are absolutely fantastic, and which we absolutely loved, and it was amazing. You don't get much action sequences in the sense of what you'd expect until you get to the last half an hour, and then holy shit!
Holy shit balls!
Holy shit balls! Holy shit balls! I have no idea. Like coming from a budding filmmaker and someone who understands
How do you do it?
I understand quite a lot of editing. I edit these shows. I do a little bit of play about with stuff that I've edited on DaVinci and a couple of bits of software, but I have no idea how he did this. I have no idea how he done the casting of the basis of the fighting on the massive battles. There's a battle scene when you have
thousands of people.
Yeah,
thousands of people, I think.
Thousands of people. Laser is basically laser tag on crack, but mixed with time.
That bit when that building like straightens stuff up and goes up and then blows up at the top.
Yeah, basically.
At that point, I looked at you and went, and you were sitting there going.
I genuinely turned around and went, fucking no idea, mate. No idea.
Because half of it's destroyed, half of it's building, half of it's...
So the building in the film is falling, and then one of the characters shouts, we need a distraction. So obviously there's time relation of what's happening. So they eventually blow up a part of the building as it's going back up, as it's been inverted. They blow up the top of the building once it's re-inverted, so it explodes. So you're affecting people who, in the inversion of time and the version of time that you're seeing. And if you have not watched this and you're trying to listen to the shit that I'm talking just now, half cut, discussing time inversion.
Oh my God, Chris, that's my favourite line ever. You're looking to the inversion and version of time. I love that. That's brilliant.
I don't even know. Yeah, but I'm just like Nathan's a science guy here.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're not even there yet. Nathan's working in 6 hours.
Fuck it. Why
So-
would I- yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I mean, like, the brain fire of everything that happens after that. Everything that happens after that is just shootouts, gun slinging, proper action sequences. Apart from that big, massive, crazy battle scene, nothing is real after that. So after that point, you're now into the point. Oh my God. Now you're getting to the point where the shootouts are now shootouts on the basis of it's inverted bullets. It could be inverted. It might be normal bullets. So if you get an inverted bullet, obviously it's messier given the way that inversion works. Nathan will explain.
Radiation.
Hold on.
Apparently, that's all he said. Basically, was to do with radiation.
I'm assuming the inversion of a bullet is that it travels differently. The inversion of a bullet must travel differently from a bullet.
It travels back, so the entropy goes backwards.
But if you're left with, oh my God, we're getting sciencey already. We're not even in this part yet. So if you are a standard character and you're being hit by a bullet that is inverted, the inversion of a bullet differs the reaction to everything that's happening.
So what happens basically it will go through you, sort of cause the bullet damage. The trouble is that the decaying of your bit round your bullet hole will expand because
that's what I'm meaning, which is obviously what you see with one of the characters that gets shot. But won't spoil that. It's not necessary. It's interesting.
the bookie.
Nathan just spoiled it. Sorry, guys. If you were hoping for a non-spoiler there, Nathan's right in there with and he inverted my spoiler.
What's her name again? What's her character's name? Fitbird.
I guess she was fit. Yeah, come on. No, that's not what we're here for.
Lost my phone. I can't find it. What is it?
I want to say Susan. No,
Sue.
don't know. Susan, an accountant.
I know the son was called Max.
Mm.
Max's mom.
Maxie's mom.
Her maid, who we never saw, was called Anna.
There you go. That was a man of the maid. But anyway.
You might not got her name. You might not got her name.
Yeah.
It's
No, we did. She talked about her. I'm sure she did. Let's not go there. We're too deep. We're down the rabbit hole already, Nathan.
I'm actually quite pissed now. So.
Just again, we're just ruining this.
Okay, next one. Next up. What's up?
I don't know. I'm getting too drunk now. This is the best. Like, if anyone's watching this and you're just watching piss up bloody reviews, and this is what you're going to get in the future because this was a plan.
No posters though.
I know you're dizzy poster. So
This is not even.
So we've talked about the action sequences. We're being there, done it.
Science. It's science.
We're almost there, Nathan.
That's
We're
a good.
almost there. When I say almost, we're there.
Oh.
We're going to talk about the science of this. So, probably you're looking at two very different films previous to Mr. Nolan. Mr. Nolan did two films just previous to this, which would be Inception and Interstellar. Two films very, very based on science. So if you've watched anything you've seen of Christopher Nolan, you'll know that Interstellar exceptionally was based in real science. He discussed a lot of what he was going to do with the film with NASA, and everything was based on, I think it was roughly string theory and lots of different types of physics. So but everything was real. Everything he did for Interstellar was very, very real. So from what I've read so far, everything he was doing from this film is based on real physics as well. Every single thing that comes up in this was based on what we're looking at as a future of time travel, of what you can do with things, the entropy of bullets, the entropy of anything. But I mean, the entropy becomes, from the start of the film, it's just a bullet, to the entropy becoming a car, changing the entropy of anything, which becomes massive, massive part of the story of entropy of life in general. If you change the entropy of the planet, you basically invert everything and causing it to collapse and become nothing. So everything stops, which is basically bigger than World War III, which is what they're discussing.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it does make sense on the basis. If you just look at it very, very, don't need to dip your toe very deep in this to understand that if you look at entropy and you understand the basics of entropy, if everything stops, everything going forward and backward stops at the same time, so nothing exists.
Oh, not exactly.
Oh, I'm already out. Cool. Nathan, take it up.
The idea being that, so entropy works, basically entropy is a level of disorder. Yeah?
Yeah.
So entropy starts at the beginning of time, and at the beginning of time, entropy is very ordered, so the entropy is very low. Yeah. At the end of time, entropy is very high, so it's very high level of disorder, so entropy is very high. Yeah. So the idea of this film is that you can take little strands of the timeline now, not whole not whole pieces of it, and you can take that little bit of timeline and then those little pieces, like a bullet or a person or whatever, and then you can reverse the entropy, and it won't affect the whole entropy of the system. Am I losing you yet?
You're not losing me, right? So I'll tell you what I'm at. Like I really, as a person, I enjoy physics. I enjoy time. I read a lot of stuff about time. I read a lot of stuff about string theory, different types of physics on the basis of time travel. Love it. I've been a massive fan since films I've seen do it. So I read quite a lot and understand quite a lot.
Yep.
Entropy is probably very, very, very specific order of time and involvement over very specific units of stuff.
Not necessarily. Entropy is just it's basically just like,
all right, big boss, for you, like, just for a wee nomad here. I'm just a wee pleb, pal. Just a wee pleb. Fucking brain box. You back after a sec.
It's a measure of order, basically.
Yeah, but what my problem?
So towards the beginning of time, everything's very ordered. Everything's in their place. So entropy is very low. You get towards the end of time, which is for us, it's hundreds of millions of years away. It's very disordered. So entropy is very high.
Yes,
okay?
I get.
Where we are at the moment is depending on where you view the universe. But if you take a very small strand, which is what they're doing in this, basically in this film, they're taking like the bullet. The bullet is a minusculely small strand, which doesn't affect the entropy of everything else.
Yeah.
Because it's so minutely small, and they can. I feel like Brian Cox here. Basically, they reverse the entropy, so the entropy goes backwards just for that one small strand. So it's not necessarily to do with my understanding of it. It's not just to do with the object. It's to do with the place and time.
Yeah. Okay. And I understand
why you can have the bit with the soldier fighting backwards and stuff like that.
So that's the part that I understand. I understand entropy. I understand everything about entropy. But my biggest factor, which I do not get about entropy, I think, is on the basis of how you relate entropy just to a single individual item.
I think there's bits in this that with everything else that it's in cinema, so you got to.
Yeah, this is where it becomes.
But I said to you, one of the things I didn't understand was the fact that they use inversion up to a point and then they join the timeline.
Yeah.
I didn't understand where the way they did it a little bit.
So this is this machine that they have, which they have together, which is the thing that you put in. If you use it, you invert entropy on yourself or revert entropy.
I think the fact that they broke it into that simple idea. Well, not simple. I think simple idea. It's not that simple idea.
It's not. It's hard work.
But the fact that they've broken it into something that you can look up on Google if you want to.
Google it, please do. I did.
But entropy is a cool idea. I mean, Brian Cox did a whole episode of his, I think it's his Universe one on BBC, about the idea of entropy and the fact that in 100 million years or 500 million years time, the entropy's got so apart that basically all life dies.
So on that happy note,
that's what I was going for. I love it. I wasn't planned, guys. I wasn't planned. Yeah,
I get
the idea. The basic idea in this is like you're not controlling the object. You're controlling that piece of the timeline, and that's what I took from it.
I mean, but
It sort of explains that a little bit in her little.
It does. I mean, like it was Clemens Posey does explain a little bit about it, and then I think Dimple explains a little bit later on as
Neil
well.
does as well a little bit.
Yeah, she kind of her character does.
James doesn't know, but he does know. He talks about anti-protons and stuff like that, which is to do with antimatter, which is a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Which we could do a whole episode on if you want.
We could, yeah, because I'm a geek. I'm a super geek. I love physics. I love, and then this guy here is an absolute knowledge bank. I said bank of information. So we could talk about this. We could do this all day.
No. I think the science, what they're talking about, holds up most of it.
It does, which interests me. This is
I
why
think the fact that the way they use, I think it's at the moment it's very theoretical in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I think the stuff they use it, which is, but they did that in Inception as well. You know, the idea of like diving into dreams. Interstellar, they definitely used it.
Interstellar.
I love Interstellar, the visualization of string theory when he plucks his strings. I thought that's so cool.
Yeah, I like that.
And I said to you earlier, I love the way that Nolan does this thing where he uses very, very like highbrow like physics level stuff. Like high, and he shows it as a mechanical function.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's such a cool thing he does.
This is what I love about it, because I mean, like, I have sat and read theories about black holes till the cows come home, because it's something that I really enjoy. I enjoy reading about physics. I enjoy reading about a lot of science.
Very interesting. Black holes are very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really interests me as a human being. Like,
the coolest thing in the world, I think, is the fact that a black hole, right? Light has no. That is my thing. Right? Light has no mass, right?
Yeah.
But a black hole, gravity attracts light. Yeah. And only that gravity can attract light if it's got mass. So therefore, light has mass, but it doesn't.
Okay.
I'm sure no one will make a film about it. And I did that at quite advanced level of maths and physics. But yeah.
I'll sip on my beer after that one.
Just take a minute to think about that. Right? So light has no mass, but a black hole is so powerful it attracts light because it has mass.
Yeah, we don't have a fucking clue what's going on in our universe. Let's put it that way.
I love that stuff though.
Yeah, I know. We don't have a clue. We really don't have a clue.
Anyway, back to the film.
Yeah, back to the film. So the science of everything that he's done is so real, it's so raw. Everything he does, and everything in this film stands and holds its ground.
He must have some sort of scientific advisor, or maybe he just knows stuff himself. But I said to you earlier, even the smallest thing was like when they talk about inversion, and what the woman goes, "Well, you've got to use your own oxygen because oxygen works the wrong way."
Yeah.
And I said to you, that's so cool that you got
very clever.
About, like walk different and drive different and stuff like that. That's cool. But the fact that they've gone to the level of wear a mask because oxygen's different, I thought that was just so, like, that's attention to detail.
Yeah, above and beyond what you expect. So many filmmakers would just leave you there and not follow those rules. But this guy literally,
how about, suspension of disbelief and forget that bit.
Yeah, this guy literally sets you in this world, and you watch birds fly backwards. You watch them. Every single thing about this world be inverted from what they.
Even that bit when they meet the woman and she says, "I can't get used to the birds."
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's a cool line, though, isn't it?
So clever, I know.
There's so many cool lines in this film, though, but that's one of them.
It is, and we're going to have to come back to this at some point because we're now on an hour and 20 minutes, and you've got work in the morning, Nathan. But we're on an hour and 20 minutes just discussing what we two.
I've an hour and 40 to play first, so it's fine.
I know. We've discussed a lot in this, and I'm hoping to get this on as soon as I possibly can. But
just in case you're not sure, guys, it's 10 out of 10 from me.
Do we need to? Do we even need to? I mean, like, really? Do we even need to? Because I can't.
25 out of 10 from me.
Nothing in my top 10 of films are all 10 out of 10s. My top 10, and this is in my top 5. So there's no.
I agree.
There's no questions on this. There's like, I'm going to do a couple of reviews of my favorite films. Nathan's going to do a couple of reviews of his favorite films, and
that's difficult but this is definitely up there.
Well, this is
my top 10's about 74 films, but this is definitely in the top 10.
Yeah, my top 10 is only 8,722 long, so we'll get through it. No bother, guys, when we manage to discuss it. But this has been amazing. It's been, I don't know if it's just been because we've been in lockdown. This is our first day in the cinema, and you've seen our wee video as we entered this chat about how excited we were and just kind of joking on the way up. And my ears were like that with my mask looking like a little Yoda.
But I think I'll say to you, I think like we didn't experience any sort of like censorship of cinema and stuff like that. I think the days when, like back in the day, when you couldn't see something because of a reason for it.
Yeah.
I think we've experienced that a little bit today.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm overplaying what we've seen today, but I
don't think so. I don't think you're overplaying anything. I feel privileged today to be able to go and see cinema.
Yeah. And it was free as well, so it's always good.
I know. It's a blessing that it was a great film. I feel so privileged being able to be back out in the real life and embracing cinema. Thank you, Christopher Nolan, for letting us and making that and releasing it in the UK. I don't know if it was down to you, the fact it got released, but thank you, everyone who was ever involved in the making of that film, and it coming out today, which was a glass to you. Thank you. It was absolutely fantastic, and I genuinely feel privileged that I've been part of getting to see that, and a long lockdown experience getting to back into the world of cinema. I'll never change.
And we'll do a new review next time we see it on Sunday.
We're going to do it again. We're coming back. I'm going to get this up as soon as I possibly can, and you're going to have me, hopefully Tony, Nathan, or Mark. Tony, Nathan. No, Tony, you're here. Hi, Nathan.
I'm sorry.
Tony, Mark, or Sean involved, and I'm forgetting names now because I've had about 25 beers. I'm just hopefully we get some of the rest of the team here to discuss it with us. Maybe me just having a chat about it. But thank you very much for joining us. I'm drunk. I want my bed. I'm going to finish a glass of water. Nathan is probably going to play Fortnite because he's that guy. Thank you, buddy. It was a great night. It was a great viewing. And as always, we can do this all day.
I can as well.